Welcome everybody. This is the third broadcast of the night. This is James Krasnerick, and you're listening to Real Steel Sports on Spreaker Web Radio. I hope you're having a great night. I did my first two predictions, which include the Baltimore Ravens at the New England Patriots, and the Green Bay and the Seattle Seahawks hosting the Carolina Panthers. Speaking of Green Bay, that is the next game I'm going to talk about right now. We got the Cowboys and the Packers, two 12-4 teams, two teams rich in NFL history. One game to decide who will go to the NFC Championship game. This game I'm really looking forward to because, in my opinion, this game has the potential to be the best game of Wild Card Weekend. Because let's put it this way, we've got the two highest scoring offenses in the NFL. You've got the Cowboys, who are averaging, actually not the two highest scoring offenses, two of the highest scoring offenses in the NFL. The Cowboys, who average 29.2 points per game, and the Packers, who are number one with 30.4 points per game on average. The Packers are heading into this game having won 7 of their last 8 games, and since they started off 1-2, they've ripped off 10 of their last 12 games. Actually, I should say 11 of their last 13 games they've won, and they've looked convincingly good. Blowing out the Panthers, blowing out the Vikings, blowing out the Bears in Chicago and at home, which was a 6-touchdown game for Rodgers. Destroying the Eagles, beating the Patriots at home, destroying Atlanta. That game was a lot closer than it seems. It looked a lot more one-sided than it appeared to be. And then, of course, defeating Detroit in the season finale. Aaron Rodgers is an MVP candidate and first-team All-NFL for obvious reasons. Look at the numbers he's put up this year. "38 touchdown passes, 5 interceptions. He has been incredibly good this year. Quarterback rating 112.2. He's got some really good weapons to throw to. Two of the best receivers in the game, Randall Cobb and Jordy Nelson. Both over 90 catches, both over 1,200 yards, both double-digit touchdowns. Eddie Lacy's been a very fine addition to their backfield from the previous season. Over 1,100 yards rushing, over 4.5 yards a clip, and 9 touchdowns on the ground to complement his 4 touchdowns through the air. Tight end Andrew Corliss with 3 touchdown catches, been a pretty solid play too. But on defense, that's where they've made a big improvement over last year. Clay Matthews, 11 sacks, leads the team. He has played all 3 linebacker positions, outside, on both sides, and inside. Julius Peppers has played on the front 4 or front 3 and in the linebacking core. He's got 7 sacks. The secondary is anchored by Tremont Williams and Casey Hayward, who both have 3 interceptions. And as a unit, they've hit 41 sacks this year and recorded 18 interceptions. So they are a team that's based on balance. They are a team that's going to confuse you, take the football away, as they're plus 14 in the turnover differential, which in the NFL is clearly the best for this year. They are 6th in yards, 15th in yards allowed, 8th in passing, 10th against the pass, 11th in rushing, and 23rd against the run. Now, flopping over to the Dallas Cowboys side, Dallas has been, in my opinion, one of the 2 or 3 biggest surprises this year. Because after the 3 straight 8-8 seasons and the absolute mediocrity of that defense, I thought they were positioned for another second or third place finish in their division. But they proved me wrong, and they were very impressive in doing it. The game that really kind of showed me that was the game against the St. Louis Rams, where they just were getting destroyed early on. I think they were down 21-0 at one point. They were just getting slaughtered. I mean, Austin Davis was having himself a hell of a game, and then the Cowboys just flipped a switch, and they outscored them 34-10 the rest of the way. Dallas has had some good wins on the road this year. They're undefeated on the road. This is the first time in NFL history a team that is undefeated on the road in the playoffs took on a team that is undefeated at home. Not something we've seen very often. The Cowboys' impressive wins include a 21-point thrashing of the Saints, a win in Seattle, which is extremely rare, a thrashing of the Philadelphia Eagles, Indianapolis Colts, and Washington Redskins, and Chicago Bears to finish the season, and the very impressive come-from-behind victory led by Tony Romo to ultimately end the Detroit Lions' bid for a rematch with the Packers. Speaking of Tony Romo, 70% completion percentage, 34 touchdowns, only 9 interceptions, quarterback rating of 113.2, clearly his best season to date. And you look at the guys he's got around him. He's got the best running back in the league in terms of rushing yardage. You can argue between him and Le'Veon Bell. But DeMarco Murray's had a great year, over 1,800 yards rushing, 4.7 yards a carry, 13 touchdowns on the ground, and through the air, well, Dez Bryant, 16 touchdown catches, 1,320 yards receiving, 88 catches. Jason Witten and Terrence Williams, both with more than 5 touchdowns, both with over 600 yards receiving. Terrence Williams being a solid number 2 wide receiver, and the veteran Jason Witten, 32 years old, and he's still just as good as he ever was. On defense, they're anchored by a defense that has a lot more youth than they used to have. New guys like Jeremy Mincey, who led the team in sacks with 6. Henry Melton, who led the team with sacks, he had 5. Who was almost tied for the lead. And on defense, their leading interceptor is linebacker Bruce Carter with 5 picks. Free safety J.J. Wilcox has 3, and strong safety Barry Church, who's had an incredibly good year tackling, 2 interceptions and 80 tackles on the season. This is a very, very different Cowboys team than the one that we've seen the last few years. But this game is going to be interesting because you've got a Green Bay team that can run the football and throw the football. And now that Aaron Rodgers has a running game, it makes him even scarier because you don't know what to prepare for. A pump fake could be the difference between a 70-yard touchdown pass and a 7-0 lead. He has been that good this year. As for Dallas, they've been pretty good faking the football too, and they've got another guy who's been throwing the ball well too, and that'd be Tony Romo. The best season he's ever had, led the league in QBR and in passer rating. And if you just look at the way that he's played in general, this whole team has played extremely well. Both teams have not really been hampered by injuries. They've really not been hampered in the way. They have pretty much most of their key guys, and everything has been falling into place, and they played well over the last 4 or 5 games of the season. But the one thing Dallas does have to overcome is the head-to-head record. Because from the 4 games that they've played in which Aaron Rodgers has been starting quarterback for the Green Bay Packers, or actually in the 4 games since Brett Favre retired, Dallas has been 1-3. A 17-7 loss in 2009, you can kind of throw out the window because it's very different teams now. A 45-7 loss in 2010, same thing. But last year with a backup quarterback, Matt Flynn and the Green Bay Packers went down to Dallas, came back from a ridiculous deficit. They were down 26-3 and entering the halftime. They came back and beat them 37-36. It's just, I've never, ever seen a comeback that crazy in another team's stadium by a road team before. But these are 2 different teams than they were a year ago. Both teams are better now. They're better. Green Bay 8-0 at home. You've got Dallas 8-0 on the road. Something has got to give. And what I'm really looking forward to in this game is to see which team is able to run the football better. Because when you get 2 teams that can move the football on the ground, and 2 teams that can move it through the air really efficiently with average defenses, it's a pick'em. I think the weather is going to be a huge impact because it's supposed to be between 10 and 12 degrees. That's not the kind of weather that's really positive for the Cowboys. But if you do look at their results this year, they did beat Chicago in Chicago and the weather was bad. So that's pretty impressive. Even though Chicago's not as good as Green Bay, not even close. But on the same note, Green Bay at home this year has just been dominant. Aaron Rodgers has not thrown an interception at home this year. He's been so clean and so good. His calf will be fully ready and he'll be ready to go. Ultimately with this game, the running backs are the X factors because if DeMarco Murray and Tony Romo can balance out the plays between running and passing, keep Rodgers on the bench, chew up the clock, wear down Green Bay's defense, and get some long drives that result in touchdowns, not field goals, they'll win this game. But if Green Bay is able to dissect Dallas's defense, which I think they can do with the kind of secondary that the Cowboys have, it's better than it was last year by a wide margin. But Green Bay's receivers are so good, Cobb and Nelson, and of course you got Corliss and Richard Rodgers, the tight ends. The bottom line, the way I look at it is this. The weather and the fact that Green Bay has been so dominant at home, I think is a little bit of an edge to them. I think Dallas is really going to have to play extremely well if they want to have a chance to win this game. They're going to have to bring their A game. Now, Tony Romo in the playoffs, we all know how that goes. Looking at his career numbers in the postseason, because he's been in the postseason 4 times. His career playoff numbers, he's completing 59.6% of his passes. He's completed them for 6 touchdowns and 2 interceptions. That's a passer rating of 87. In 2 of his last 3 playoff games, he's had a pass rating over 104. He's played well. And I think that Green Bay is a defense that he can take advantage of. I think Green Bay is a defense he can move the football on. But on that note, Aaron Rodgers is playing a defense that he can easily move the football on. So when everything's all said and done, I'm going to give the edge to the Green Bay Packers. I feel that the weather at home, it's supposed to be 19 degrees the daytime, but about 10 when the game starts. I have to give Green Bay the edge because of the weather and because of Aaron Rodgers. And the fact that he doesn't have to be fully mobile. If he's able to get the pass off to Nelson or Cobb, game over. So I think that this game will be a shootout, but I believe Green Bay will win maybe by a touchdown. I'm thinking maybe 34-27, something along those lines. It's going to be a shootout. Both quarterbacks are going to probably play pretty good. I give Green Bay the slight edge. I hope you guys enjoyed this game, this preview. I'll be previewing the final game of the divisional weekend, the Colts and the Broncos. Andrew Luck versus Peyton Manning. Stay tuned.